Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Remember, if you love film, gaming, or television content, please consider clicking that subscribe button because, yeah, I think I'm back with talking about new releases. Here are my thoughts on John Wick Chapter 4. Because I haven't covered this series on my channel because I only recently saw all three John Wick movies in the lead up to John Wick 4, I want to talk about those ones just real quickly and give you a quick score summary. So, John Wick Chapter 1 is a 3.5 out of 5, Chapter 2 is a 3 out of 5, and Chapter 3 is a 3.5 out of 5. I think they have been films that I generally like but don't really love, and I think the main criticisms that I have are firstly, John Wick feels far too invincible and never felt threatened. So a lot of these excellent fight scenes just didn't carry any weight in my eyes. This is more of a problem that I'm going to mention for chapters 2 and 3. But the second criticism is the reason that they are all fighting wasn't really enough to justify two whole films. The first one is fine in that regard because the revenge story is very compelling and it's enough to really justify that film. But for the other two, it doesn't really do that, and that's why the first was my favorite entry up until this new release. Now we go to John Wick 4, and so much of those major criticisms that I have just mentioned are gone here. This is one of the best action films that I have ever seen. This has real stakes, badass characters, and John Wick is so vulnerable in this, which complement some of the best fight scenes in the entire series. I was so worried about this film being almost 3 hours long because as each entry was getting longer and longer, I was getting more fatigued with this series. However, this was just such a refreshing entry. The fact that instantly this film gives you a reason for the fighting. It gives you a reason to care and make John Wick seem so much more vulnerable within that first act. Just adds so much to this movie, and because of that, each scene you feel those stakes. The film has a lot more locations as well than the other entries, and I thought that was also very refreshing with different forms of cinematography in each of these locations. Create some truly stunning shots. Now, let's get into the characters as well because they were by far the biggest improvement in this entire series. The existing characters felt more compelling here. This is also Lance Reddick's final film before his tragic passing, and I think the final dialogue that he says in this movie is beautiful and almost feels like a picture perfect way to end his incredible career. Keanu Reeves is once again such a badass in this. The dedication he has for being directly involved with this really stunning fight choreography should be commended. Then we have the new characters. You have Bill Skarsgård playing an almost Bond-like villain here, which I think was a pretty perfect style choice for a John Wick antagonist. Then you have Shamir Anderson, who is a very perfect addition to this series. He has so many great scenes, and his motivations in this I found very interesting. The one who I think is an absolute standout for this movie and elevates it so much is Donnie Yen. He works so well with this style of fight choreography and is by far the most interesting character in this movie in my eyes. His motivations, which I won't spoil, add so much depth to his character and John Wick as well in ways which make you really care about what is going on and what is going to happen next. Every scene he is in, I would consider flawless. I will tell you that I was very close to giving this film a 5 out of 5 because there are so many memorable moments and he is responsible for a lot of them. He is a badass in this movie and he deserves as much praise as possible for what he achieved here. This film wears its inspiration on its sleeve. I know the other entries had moments where it pays homage to Asian action films and westerns, but this takes it to a whole new level. Seeing these references to that style of filmmaking was just a genius move from director Chad Stahelski. I can't really go into too much of this story without spoiling it for you guys, and I really don't want to do that. But I will say that this has a lot more story compared to the other three movies. All I'll say is that this style of story it's telling, I've always loved personally. So when I see it go down this route, it makes it all the more enjoyable for me. I also wasn't sure this was going to go in a certain direction, and when it did, I could not help but respect the decisions that were made in the third act. I don't know how audiences will generally respond to it, but for me, I think it was perfectly executed. In terms of just small little nitpicks, I think some of the line delivery at times was a little bit goofy, especially from Keanu Reeves, but he does have this charming element to it where he kind of pulls it off in a weird way. I also think sometimes it dives into the territory of being a bit ridiculous in moments. In terms of how much damage John Wick can take, I've had this problem with the other movies, and it happens here possibly to greater effect. What more is there to really say here? I would love to dive deep into spoilers, but it is far too soon. All I can say is if you don't like John Wick at all, please give this one a chance. I can speak from experience. I wasn't too crazy about the other films either, but this one will go down as one of the best films of the year. This was exactly what I was hoping John Wick would be when I decided to watch this series. And I truly believe that this is the best Keanu Reeves movie since The Matrix. I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a 4.5 out of 5, and I highly recommend you go see this in a theater. You'll probably have morons at your screening like I did, with someone commenting on scenes. The whole time through this 2-hour and 50-minute movie, I was getting so mad, but this movie is just worth dealing with it. And if you're braver than me, you would probably tell them to shut up, and that would be amazing. Anyway, those are my thoughts towards John Wick Chapter 4. If you have seen it, tell me what you think about it in the comments below without spoiling it. Chad Stileski has said that he is done for the moment in terms of making John Wick movies, and I can't think of a more perfect place to stop. It doesn't need any more entries, and I don't think they'll be able to top what they've done here. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider clicking that like button and maybe subscribing too, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.